Where you lead, I will follow anywhere that you tell me to. When many of us saw Gilmore Girls for the first time, it's very easy to fall in love with the mother-daughter relationship that Lorelai and Rory had because, let's face it, this is not a typical mother and daughter. Lorelai did not care about curfews. She let Rory do whatever she needed, let Rory have a blast. She was the bring your boyfriend, let's watch a movie together on the sofa kind of mom. And I'm sure any African mom who stumbled on this series would have been like, please, can you take that thing off my screen? It's obvious Lorelai and Rory were more like besties. If you try to watch this a second time or maybe a few episodes like I do sometimes, you might have probably collected a few more brain cells enough to notice that this dream relationship had some serious issues because Lorelai was very heavily codependent on Rory.
Rory, my heart, it is Saturday, the day of rest.
Sunday's the day of rest.
No, Saturday's the day of pre-rest.
Pre-rest?
Yeah, so that way when you actually get to Sunday, you're rested enough to enjoy your rest.
Now, Lorelai had Rory when she was 16. Rory wasn't also your typical teenager because she was like what you would call a mini adult. She was quite responsible. She loved to read books. You know, she did not care about being popular and makeup and stuff like that. Not to sound sexist, please. don't come for me. Her being quite mature made their friendship connection stronger. And it also helped that Lorelai was like a cool mom. You can see in this show that Lorelai treated Rory as an equal, right, instead of her child for the most part. And I'll talk about a little bit more about what I feel about this her parenting style very soon. Her treatment of Rory this way led to some major problems even for Rory as well. From the beginning of the series, we see that Rory was basically the adult in their dynamic because she was the one, holding things together. She was one keeping Lorelai in check sometimes. She was playing the role of the mature stabilizing force in their household. Lorelai was quite impulsive. She was carefree. She was, acting like a teenager sometimes.
Have some more pizza.
It's cold. Heat it up. It's not the same.
Lorelai, go to your room.
And one of the things that we see, especially with how Lorelai was managing her emotions, and her child at the same time, was how she handled the breakup with Max. Remember when she broke up with Max and she decided that the best way to cope with this was to drag Rory on a spontaneous road trip. Like she literally woke up from sleep and she missed school and they went on a road trip together, and it's like, no, you can't do that. I get that she might have not had an outlet to do that. Like, I mean, to be honest, she had a best friend. Like, I don't think there's actually an excuse for this, right? She had a friend that she would have spoken to about this. It was too much for her to lay that burden on Rory. I said it. I said it. I don't care what anyone else thinks, but I said it. That is my opinion. Now, also, we see her dating Rory's teacher. I know they even get to the point where I think she kisses him in the school environment, and it's like, no. Now, I get that there are mixed feelings about this. Some people think that the fact that she happens to get interested in someone that is teaching her daughter doesn't mean that she shouldn't go for it. I agree with that. But I also think that she could have been careful about it. Like, it's just bizarre for you to be kissing someone that is interested in you in your child's school. Come on. Like, I don't think I need to say this. The fact that you're even in your child's school should give you a sort of paranoia that your child can just pop in from the roof or something. Also, if you think about it, one of the things that I believe led Lorelai to behave this way is because she also had a relationship with her parents where they were quite controlling. I don't know if Richard was that controlling, but I believe that Emily was. They were also emotionally distant.
It's my fault that she's not happy. It's my fault. It's all my fault.
It's not your fault.
That's right. It's not my fault.
And I believe that Lorelai was also trying her hardest, as most people do, not to replicate that kind of relationship that she had with her parents, with her daughter.
I had no life. I had no air. You strangled me. I'm so tired of hearing about how you were suffocated and I was so controlling.
And unfortunately, she ended up doing like the exact opposite because she tried to do a 180 where she was like her daughter's best friend and available to her, but it was more of a codependent relationship because her daughter was bearing a lot of her own emotional problems. Also, there were a lot of times that I believe that Lorelai needed to be more of a parent and provide actual guidance to her daughter To be honest, now that I think about it, I think that there were a lot of ways that Lorelai was leading just by leaving, right? Not necessarily telling her daughter, this is what you should do. In the series, Lorelai was more or less, successful at what she was doing. She was managing her own the inn eventually, and she was doing quite okay with that. She was a decent human being. She had friends, she had people around her that supported her. So in that sense, I would say that Lorelai didn't exactly need to tell her daughter, hey, do this. Her daughter could see that her mother was quite decent. But there were some other areas that Lorelai wasn't exactly setting the right example. For example, we see with her relationships, right? Particularly the one with Chris, Rory's dad. And here, I think that Lorelai could have done better in the sense that it was quite clear that this man, first of all, his family did not come to terms with what happened between their son and um Lorelai. They thought that Lorelai was responsible for for an affair. I mean, for a relationship that had happened between two people. So Chris's father and mom were, blaming Lorelai for how she was one that ended their son's life by getting pregnant, by impregnating herself, obviously, at this point.
If you'd attended a university as your parents had planned, and as we planned in vain for Christopher, you might have aspired to something more than a blue-collar position.
Don't do this.
And I wouldn't give a damn about you derailing your own life if you hadn't swept my son along with you.
And there's that. There's also the fact that Chris wasn't actively taking responsibility. He tried a couple of times to, suggest that Lorelai and him, become a family. This is after, years had passed and Rory was a bit grown. It was just words. It wasn't really putting actions to it because they were only seeing like once in a blue moon, So he wasn't ready to be committed in whether in both areas, whether it's being in a relationship with Lorelai or even being a father to Rory, right? And it looked like Lorelai was accepting of this behavior because every time he would come, she would sometimes even sleep with him. There were no boundaries in that sense, right? And I think that this could have been something that Rory saw and might have, registered this as an okay behavior because in my opinion, I believe that it explains why she dated Logan, even though he was engaged, and she had an affair with Dean, even though he was married, right? And you can even see some of her responses to this. Like, she wasn't feeling guilty about this relationship. She wasn't doing it and, having a sense of, hey, I'm doing the wrong thing. It was like, I don't care. Like with Dean, for example, when her mom found out that she slept with Dean while Dean was married, and her mom confronted her about it, which was one of the first times that her mom would confront her about anything. And she went, "Oh, he's my dean. Who says he's my dean to about a married man? Who says that about a married man?" And then she even went on to say that Dean was with her first before his wife, and so it doesn't matter.
First time was with someone sweet and kind who loves me.
I didn't raise you to be like this. I didn't raise you to be the kind of girl who sleeps with someone else's husband.
You slept with Dad when he was with Sherry.
And this goes to show that Rory did not exactly have the right example of relationships. This is not saying that this is an excuse for her to behave the way she did, but yeah, this was a situation where Rory copied wrong. Yeah, another thing we see here is that, like in the previous video I did where I talked about how Logan's father shatters Rory's dreams, basically telling her that, she didn't have what it takes to be a journalist. I think that this was one of the low points for Rory because I think Rory looked up to Logan's father because he was working in a field that she was interested in. Her confidence took a hit, right, because of what she had heard. And I think that this was also because she has never been in a situation where she had to handle rejection, right? And had to handle being told, no, you shouldn't do this like this, or I don't think this is a good idea. She was always like, oh, told that everything she did was gold and, happy-go-lucky kind of atmosphere and environment that she lived in. She was never really critiqued. And this was why when she had to face reality, when she had to face the real world, where Logan's father told her. And I believe that Logan's father did not mean any harm because, I looked at that conversation over and over again, and I think he was being quite frank and honest with her, about what he thought an ideal journalist should be, or, a successful, very successful journalist looks like. And that should have just been an opportunity for her to, reflect and think about what she could do differently, right? But she took that as an attack. She took it really personally, and she really went. She did a lot of things like taking a break from you, taking a longer than expected break from you, and all of that. So yeah, another thing we see is with Lorelai. We're talking about Lorelai today, not Rory. But the reason I'm talking about this and involving Rory is to see how some of the mistakes she made impacted Rory, and that's why it looks like Rory is really heavily involved in this talk. But yeah, we see also Lorelai's immaturity play when Rory decides, I'm taking a break from you, and Lorelai is like, no, you're not going to. Like, that makes no sense. And she gives her the silent treatment when she eventually does that, right? And this is literally copying exactly what her mom was doing, because her mom would also give her the silent treatment when she doesn't do what she wants. And someone is not talking to you or speaking to you because you do not do what they want. I do it sometimes. I'm going to be honest. Someone else do it, but it's not exactly an entirely healthy behavior, because you have to realize that if someone is not doing what you want them to do, right, it's not all the time that what you want them to do is necessarily the best for them, right? So sometimes you have to let people make their decisions, right? Even if they make mistakes, let them make the mistakes with their full chest, right? Especially if they're adults. If you want to help someone see that their decision is wrong or what they're doing is wrong, the best way might not necessarily be to give them silent treatment. Like, there are other healthier ways to communicate how you feel or the disappointment you feel about their decision in a way that it also helps them to reflect and probably think well about what they're doing. So yeah, Lorelai was a bit immature here by giving her daughter the silent treatment. I think she also felt betrayed when Rory moved to her parents' house, which I thought was funny and ironic, right? Because Lorelai moved out of her parents' house because she didn't like how her parents were being parents, how they were treating her. I think one of the major reasons she actually moved out was also because of her daughter. And now her daughter is grown and she moves back in there. So that's like a straight up slap to her face. And she takes that quite personally. These are some of the ways that I believe that Lorelai's expression of her emotions and, her parenting with her daughter was not exactly healthy. Look, I'm not going to lie, there are really heartwarming sides to these relationships, because we see that time and time again, Lorelai stands up for her daughter. She never makes her feel less than for any reason. Even when their voices, literally her mom telling her that she made the biggest mistake of her life by getting pregnant at 16. Chris's father saying almost the same thing. She never ever at any point in time makes Emily feel like she has disrupted her life in any way, which is commendable, right? But we can also close our eyes to the fact that there are some things that she could have done better, I would say. And that is why I decided to do this video. So I really want to know what you guys think. Do you think that Lorelai's parenting was a total disaster, or do you think that it actually made Rory stronger? In the end, I am dying to know what you think. So please let me know in the comments. Thank you for watching this video. Don't forget to subscribe. As you know. And I will see you in the next one. Bye.